the one-word answer. Is Donald Trump a fascist, Rory?
I refuse to answer. That's a dumb question. I'm not.
Why is that a dumb question?
No, I don't think yes or no.
Well, okay. Kamala Harris, who's one of the candidates, has said that Donald Trump is a fascist, and therefore I think that is a perfectly legitimate question. Marina, do you think he's a fascist?
I think it's. First of all, I think that the term has become just bandied about so ridiculously, like all the time, that it's sort of lost its meaning, which is kind of important because it is an important word. Potentially, yes. So far, no.
He's a fucking fascist. I mean, he's like the fascist of fascists. I mean, you got to have worked with the guy to understand how bad he is. Ask General Kelly. We got him on a show right now. He'd say the guy's a full-on fascist, loved Hitler. You know what Kelly told me? And he's probably going to be mad at me now because it's going to be public. He said to me...
Too late now.
He said to me, so he's praising Hitler's generals, and Hitler had these great generals. He goes, I was trying to tell him, they tried, but they also tried to blow him up a few times.
Yeah.
They weren't that loyal to him. They were trying to blow him up once in a while. The Volkerei operation and so forth. But Trump was obsessed with Adolf Hitler.
Well, what's your definition of fascism, though? What's your definition of fascism as it relates to Trump?
The definition of fascism is that he would literally call a head of state and say, Alastair Campbell has said bad things about me. I want you to block his business from coming into your country. He has done that. That's fascism. Of course, that's fascism.
It's fascist behaviour.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, but lots of people who aren't fascists behave like that as well. So I think he's a.
You don't think he's a fascist?
No, I don't. I think because I would say fascism is a time-specific thing that comes about in the debris of the First World War, and I think there are some elements. There are lots of resonances. Don't get me wrong. There are lots of rhetorical similarities. Trump is a populist. He's a nationalist. He's a demagogue.
Do I have time to debate him or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me explain why he's not a fascist.
I got to turn.
He doesn't have a paramilitary force behind him. He doesn't have a cult of war. In fact, quite the opposite. Hitler, great example, trumpeted his service in the trenches. Trump avoided serving because of his draft offense, because of his spurs in his foot or whatever. Trump does not have a plan for aggressive expansion, as fascists so often do. But I think above all, fascism has a kind of an ideological dynamism, a momentum to remake society and to make new men in particular.
You don't think he has that?
And I don't think he has that because I don't think he has an
Do you think the people around him, do you think the Teals and the Musks,
there may be people
and the Project 2025
there may
people?
well be people who are attracted to a kind of fascism, but I don't think Trump. I think Trump himself he's an egotist. He is a demagogue. He's a nationalist. He's not a fascist.
Dominic, he has said that he wants to use the American military against his citizens. He told Esper and Milley, shoot at the kneecaps of civilians in Lafayette Square.
Right, but lots of people do that and they're not fascists.
Okay, well, maybe we have a different definition, you and I, of fascism.
Okay.
How about people that say, let's take the FBI out of the Department of Justice and have them report directly to me as my Gestapo?
Well, again, I think you're talking about somebody
that's not fascist?
He could be an authoritarian, he could be dictatorial, but is he a fascist? With a capital F? I don't think so.
But why do you say fascism is specific to one period of history?
The problem with you Brits is that you think that the word fascism is like too glib for your culture, okay? Because you experience fascism and the violence of the fascism, but we've never experienced it here in this country because of your favorite president, FDR. And this guy is a fascist, and this guy will do systemic damage to the system that has made this country the most prosperous and the greatest force. We got problems, we're not perfect, Vietnam, Iraq, etc. But the greatest force for peace in the history of man is a direct result of the decentralization of the power structure and the ability for blokes like me to move from penniless to where I am today. And you can't get there with authoritarians like Trump. He's a horrific human being. He's a total fascist. And you can think what you want, but I'm telling you, I work with the son of a bitch. And if we could get Kelly to dial in here right now, he'd be like, dude, Dominic, he's a fascist.
Say we want him to come on.
But I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that, but I'm saying that's not necessary. Being a terrible human being and being an authoritarian or being a nationalist does not make
me. If you're going to wreck the system of our government and take personal power in control. If you don't think that's the definition of fascism, that's fine. John Kelly and I think it is.
If we step back from the definitions, though, for a second, I think what we can agree on, says he trying to be smarmy here, right?
Yeah.
Is he is a massive threat to the largest and in many ways the greatest democratic experiment in the world. I mean, this is an incredible place that had universal suffrage before most of us, and he's threatening the Constitution. He's a threat to what kind of international order still remains. I mean, we're in a very, very difficult moment where the Israeli Prime Minister has just declared the Secretary General of the United Nations persona non grata, where Sudan is out of control, where we desperately need some sort of leadership, some kind of values. And so I think he's an affront, profound affront to everything that we really care about in terms of the economic future of the world, the democratic future of America, and international security.
This is a
and it
British
doesn't really
thing.
matter whether he's a fascist.
I get
or
reprimanded by
yeah,
Catty Kay on the show when I use the word fascist. She's like, "You're being too glib."
I think he's a fascist.
We in Britain don't call these people fascists and so on and so forth. But I don't think I'm being too glib. You think he's a fascist?
Well, one of the most.
I'm going to call John Kelly on the break and
No,
see if he
dude.
wants to call.
One of the most bizarre. One of the bizarre.
The guy is a batshit fascist. Okay, I'm just telling you, you do not want this guy. And by the way, when I am in Guantanamo, okay, hopefully you have leaped over Joe Rogan, and you'll be saying, I was on the podcast with Mooch. I was on the live show. He's in Guantanamo, and Trump is a fascist.
One of the most bizarre interviews I did was with my old boss, Tony Blair, for GQ magazine a few years ago. And I said to him, this was a few years ago now, I said, are you not worried about the resonance that exists? This is when Trump was president, between the 30s in Germany and other parts of Europe and what's happening in America now. And he said to me, oh, for God's sake, Alastair, get over this Trump-Hitler thing that you've got. Tony phoned me the day after January 7 and said, you might have a point. Because I think that when you think that the state exists for you, as opposed to that you exist for the state, then I think you are well down that road. I think when you have no respect for the rule of law, when you have no respect for free media, when you have no respect for human rights, you have no respect for the basic citizenship
Huge enemies
people,
list. Huge enemies list.
I think that is fascism.
And we're hoping really that it's just his intense laziness is what prevents him from being a full sort of fascist. Because
There's what our listeners
His
and
attention
viewers are
deficit
saying.
and his
Anthony,
dyslexia.
he's playing
there's what
golf
our
and he's
listeners
not
and
being a
viewers are
fascist.
saying.
All right, good.
60%, 65% yes.
Dominic and I are losing this debate.
Yeah. But I think that's because they're ultimately using a different definition
Yes.
of fascism from the one that I'm using.
But what is
You're like the Oxford Dictionary. I mean,
So you're using the word
Don't be
fascist.
the Oxford Dictionary.
You're
Look with
using
your
the word
eyes.
fascist to mean
See a
somebody-
fascist, know a fascist. Don't go to the Oxford
but hold on a minute.
Dictionary.
The definition
But you're
is important,
using
though.
it to mean somebody who is undemocratic, who is narcissistic, who will
He wants to put my ass in jail over my free speech.
but putting you in jail is not the definition of fascism. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but the definition
But it's a
of
symptom of
fascism.
fascism. It's a symptom of
Okay,
fascism.
listen.
It might be a
Dominic,
symptom
You don't
of
need an
fascism.
Dominic,
ideology.
no more makeup for you at the break. I'm just letting you know, I'm cutting you off. Okay, I'm telling.
But there are so
I'm
many.
telling
there are
Patricia, you're not
loads
getting
of-
any more makeup.
There are loads of dictatorial, authoritarian regimes, and how were in the 20th century that would have locked you up, that weren't fascist.
He does love the idea of a strong man, though. We can agree on that. Marina,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yes, he absolutely loves the idea of a strong man. He recognises them around the world. But I would say that the people around him trouble me almost more because when he's on the golf course, his work as the president, if he becomes the president, what they'll be doing in his name, I think, has the potential to be much more dangerous. We might be saved by his laziness.
I think Musk is a fascist. I think Elon Musk is a fascist.
I think Elon Musk, actually, you're on much safer ground.
But I
calling
think
him a fascist than you are Trump. Because I think Elon Musk.
Well, in which case, Trump is the leader of a group of people, sovereign individuals, who I define as having really fascistic.
So I think
tendencies.
somebody like Musk or his tech allies, they do believe that the world can be remade.
Get rid of
entirely new
democracy,
world, and
make
they
it
do
all about
believe
wealth.
human nature, the human condition,
Yeah.
can be fundamentally changed, as fascists did in the 1920s.
Is Bannon a
1930s.
fascist?
A wannabe. He's a wannabe. He would help a fascist. He's an agent of a fascist.
Yeah.
He's not capable of
sort of utopian.
the charisma
Yeah.
of.
They have sort of,
Fascists are idealists.
Yeah.
They dream of a better tomorrow and a better world.
and people like D'Annunzio behind Mussolini have these sort of strange
Absolutely.
modernist, high modernist
Absolutely. The
visions.
modernism is absolutely central to fascism.
Good. Well, I enjoyed that debate. I think we won, Marina. I think we won.
I mean, I don't even.
Trump
I
is a
can't.